Give me the piece, please. Give me the.
You want it emptied?
No.
Safety first.
I'm empty.
I bet you are.
It's not. Yeah, only after you emptied me. Gay. Right. My name is Chris. I'm the Chief Business Officer of Grip of the Spirit Tactical, and this is Nick, our CEO.
So as the title suggests, we're going to get all of y'all up to speed on what we've been doing, where we're at, well, not necessarily, I guess a little bit into where we're going. And we're going to dive into a little bit of the minutia into our business and what's been happening, what is happening. Yeah. All right, so for our core offerings, we're diving into the gun parts. I'm sure some of you have already seen that there's branded merch on the site. We'll get into a little bit of that later, but for our core offerings, we are going, after much deliberation, have decided to go with some pistol parts, a few for the shotguns, and these are all for specific platforms as well. So we really wanted to find parts that can be functional, will serve a purpose, either in a tactical situation, home defense situation. I mean, call it what you will. In the case you really need it, it'll really help out, not just for competition. We did kind of want to blend the lines, though. There are great parts that were born out of the spirit of competitions, out of not just three gunning, but trap shooting. And yeah, there's great parts, great designs, great innovations that came from race guns. And so we did kind of want to, I guess, blur that line a little bit because we do see use and utility from bringing those parts over to the EDC world, right? So one of them is going to be flared magwells. We are going to offer flared magwells for the pistols. For all the pistol parts we're talking about that we're going to be talking about right now, we chose 3 platforms to start. I know that doesn't serve the entire community. We will get to you. We promise you that.
That's the
we'll
goal.
Yeah,
Definitely the goal.
But as a startup, we have to start somewhere. So the 3 pistol platforms that we decided to run with first to roll out our initial core offering is the Smith & Wesson M&P 9 M2.0, and then the Beretta APX A1 full size, and then the Glock 17 Gen 4. So as you all might know, those, well, 2 of the 3 are probably the highest selling pistols in America. And then the Beretta APX A1, Chris and I were talking about it, and we were kind of like, that's kind of bonkers. It's weird that there's not as much aftermarket support with it, especially for a company like Beretta. I mean, they're a pretty well-known company, one of the oldest firearm companies in America, in case none of you knew that. One of the oldest, and it was kind of strange that they don't have as much aftermarket support for them. So we ended up choosing that platform as well. We have it safety first. So we have the APX A1 right here, and that took a minute for us to obviously design all of this parts for this pistol because, quite frankly, if we, like with the Glock, what? I didn't flag you. I didn't flag you. What? 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 You say it. You tell me now.
Safety first.
You have to. You have to.
No, I do. I'm just.
Board warriors, man. They're gonna be like,
I know, man. I'm just fucking kneecap. You dickhead. Sounded real, sensitive, like.
dude. Okay, so safety first.
There you go. That was it. It's a good one.
Safety first.
Safety first.
So with the Beretta APX A1, that had a different level of difficulty in designing some of these parts because, let's say, for instance, with the Glock, those Glocks are a dime a dozen with all of the aftermarket support for them. So it made it easy, more or less, to find certain dimensional factor or dimensional criteria for those parts. It was very easy. Not saying to mimic anybody over the other, but that information, necessary information, was easy to find for the Glock.
Mhm.
Even with Smith and Wesson, that was a little bit more challenging than the Glock, but by no means was it exceptionally difficult. But with the Beretta, there's no support out there, damn near. So, I mean, you don't get those resources, those educational resources that give you certain dimensions, which is why, again, these are our personal guns that we had to go out and get all of these. So, as a company, we're not allowed to purchase firearms. That's another caveat of having a gun company or a gun accessories company. If you don't have your FFL, company can't own this, technically speaking, whatever. So these are our personal firearms, but it came into good use because we did need the firearm in front of us so we could take calipers and everything to it and get the dimensions we need and have like a collaborative back and forth with different well, we are working with one engineer on the other side of the country who's really helping us out with helping us refine our 3D models and getting everything production ready. And we will get into production here in this episode, but for the time being, yeah, there is an exceptional amount of difficulty and challenges when you choose firearms that don't necessarily have the aftermarket support. You can't reference other parts. So you are kind of shooting in the dark there and kind of spearheading that. So with that being said, we are offering flared magwells, and we do intend on offering pistol magazine extensions. And before any of you keyboard warriors rip into us for this, when we do roll these out for our core offering on our website, you will notice a warning at the bottom, and we are excluding sissy states. Sorry, no offense, it's your state. So, from a legal standpoint, no, we can't sell the magazine pistol extensions to your state. I mean, sorry, it's still a business, and we do follow the law. So, and we plan on it. And you will see a warning at the bottom, and we will reach out to you if you still try to submit an order, and we will make you aware that we will be issuing you a refund. And sorry, but we can't ship it to you. So just know that is a caveat to these parts. We would love to sell them to you, don't get me wrong, but we are going to follow the law in this case. And in this case.
Yeah.
Like we're not in other cases.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of our core tenets of our company is accessibility, right? Like we want to offer all of our parts to as many people as we possibly can, but obviously as a new startup company, we don't have the funds, we don't have the resources to, have lawyers on retainers to do all the work to make sure that we get all the whole system set up and in place to ensure that we're not stepping on any state's court decisions or anything like that, because that's one of the most difficult things, having in exercising a right is never as difficult as the Second Amendment, right? Nothing that you do will be as strenuous and tedious and dangerous or risky to exercise than the Second Amendment. Obviously, it can be a very dangerous thing. However, it's not like well, I mean, this might be going off onto a rant, but I mean, if you want to talk about the First Amendment, nobody has to go out and get a license to freaking get a Twitter account. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you have to damn near be an attorney to understand what your state's freaking laws are. Right. And a lot of times you hire an attorney and they'll even say, well, this is what the Constitution says. However, with these court decisions and the ATF and this, and that. Anyways, it's very
gun laws always change too.
Right.
Not even on an annual basis anymore. They can change within months.
And so that's why we can't offer, right? Like we want to offer we want to offer our parts to as many people as possible, right? Law-abiding citizens, good people. but at least in the very beginning, when we don't have the resources to protect ourselves from a lot of, I mean, even civil cases, let alone freaking.
And there's no way that we can tell how nobody can tell
Mhm.
how that pans out. I mean, look at what happened to Remington, dude.
Yeah.
Like that, and it's unfortunate. So it's so actually no, it's tragic what happened with that shooting. But good lord, company did not. It's not like the executives sent people out. Anyways, not going off on a tangent. However,
Yeah, you were.
yeah, yeah, anymore.
You were.
Yeah. Oh, but seriously though, you can never tell where court cases lead or different events that happen. Somebody uses your part or is wearing your shirt or was wearing a patch on their vest carrying out some horrific event. It's awful, and we're not diluting that at all. I mean, we think just as much that that's tragic and that should have never happened. But we do hold different perspectives on how maybe we should go about it.
Yeah, the solution.
Yeah, and that might be actually that might be a good episode topic. But yeah, diving
Yeah.
into perspectives. But still, getting back to the point though, you will see warnings at the bottom of the project list. If you still try to order something, you might get the order through. But we're not shipping it, and we will let you know that we're not shipping it.
Yeah. We'll do our best to make sure that we have that stuff, as clear as we can. We don't want it to be fine print. We want to make sure up front, as soon as you look at our products, that it should be, pretty simple and easy to know whether or not we could ship something to your state. We don't want you to waste your time looking at our stuff if we can't ship it to you. So,
And I guess when your guys' laws and well, the laws of your state do ease up and they might end up allowing some of our parts, you better believe we will open up shipping and logistics to your state as well. We're not closing anybody off intentionally or with bias. We're doing so with under the guise of the law. So
yeah, and to be completely fair and honest with you, I mean, that's one thing that we also want to talk to you about, which is you don't really, if you're new to firearms, then you likely know absolutely nothing about firearms. You know nothing about your state laws, your the federal laws that are, Supreme Court rulings. Like it's really difficult to follow this stuff. But even with just the most bare minimum of stuff, if you really don't like that we can't send certain parts, we are both in agreement that we should be able to send you all of our stuff. Um, but at the same time, if we can't, then that the only way for you to overcome that is for you guys to change your laws within your states. And
so write a letter.
yeah, write a letter. I mean, that it may it almost seems sometimes. Part of me thinks that that's a losing battle.
Or like it's falling on deaf ears or
Yeah,
something.
like it doesn't even matter, right? Because so many people that do support, the Second Amendment or the Constitution, for the most part, we're balkanizing. They're leaving states that typically tend to, ban firearms or have very very heavy, gun laws, and so it makes it even harder, right? Like California. We're not staying in California for too much longer, my family and I. And so, some people might say that you're fighting a losing battle, but I think that it's always good to stay optimistic because you never really know what happens, especially just like if you think about what happened during COVID, right? We
Which
saw
part?
the firearm sales.
Yeah.
How many firearm sales
Yeah.
were contributed to first time firearm owners, right?
Over 12.5 million.
Who
And
didn't even know that you couldn't just pay the gun store extra to take it home that day.
yeah, there was always a process.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, but most people don't understand that because they're not
No, it depends on what media you watch too.
I think most people have no idea about gun laws. Most people don't even understand the basic fundamentals about firearm operation.
Yeah, most people that were initially outside of the firearms community. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, and that'll definitely be another episode that we'd love to talk to you guys about, just to kind of, get you get your feet wet essentially, so that way you do have a basic understanding of firearm functionality, and some of the laws and some of the obstacles that the firearm community is facing, and maybe even on top of that, teach you guys a little bit about the Constitution and American traditionalism with respect to how the founding fathers actually looked at the Second Amendment. right? And we'll go into that at freaking length. But just as a quick sneak peek, basically, you hear one of the things that I hear about the most is, well, the founding forefathers weren't talking about fully automatic modern machine guns, right? One of the funniest arguments is, well, guess what? Well, they didn't know that we would have these ridiculous killing machines nowadays. But guess what? They also didn't know that we would have Twitter. Right. So if they say,
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
if we have to if we have to keep only the firearms back at the time that they had, then the First Amendment must also be just pen and paper.
But just as much as I'm not saying to change the Second Amendment at all, but what I am saying is just as much as I have a belief that certain regulations and legislation does have room to evolve, I also feel the same way about the understanding our forefathers had when creating the Constitution or drafting the Constitution and our amendment, our Bill of Rights, our amendments. And, there is room. And they did an excellent job of that, by the way, for it being in late 1700s. They did leave it open enough to actually help evolve with the times. And if you don't think that was intentional, shiv it. So yeah, I said shiv it. I did say shiv it. Shiv it. That makes me mad. That makes me mad.
We got way off topic.
Oh, yeah, we did. So if you can recall, in our core ideology, one of our principles for the company was to make innovation more accessible, right? So since we're on the topic of production, we did have options, right? But we also want to make ourselves more competitive. Now, there's not too many easy ways of doing that at all for a startup when you're coming into a heavily saturated market. So we did have options though, and we did want to make things. We wanted to make things innovative still. Now, as everybody knows, those two things aren't usually um, cohesive.
Yeah.
So innovation does equate to more cost. So
But a lot of times it equates to more cost when it doesn't necessarily need to.
right,
Right. And
right.
that's one of our fundamental philosophies for our company, which is, hey, look, if we can come up with some innovative solutions, but we don't have to freaking charge a lot for it because we're the only ones with that innovative solution, then we're not going to. Right. So that's one of the things that we always want to freaking hark on, which is, if it doesn't have to cost that much money, it shouldn't, right? Obviously, profit helps us grow. It helps us bring you more platforms. It gives us the ability to bring our innovations to more, a caliber or more pistols or shotguns,
Or
whatnot.
different platforms.
And that's kind of our goal, right? It's like Nick and I, like we've said, or like we've established from the beginning, it's not just about money, right? And the money that we do gain, it's to put back into the company so we can make more innovation more accessible.
Right. And
So
to kind of interject with what exactly y'all could be looking for in terms of innovation, again, heavily saturated market, right?
mhm.
Several people have probably thought, yeah, I've seen everything. So what are you going to put out? Right.
What do we have to offer?
Right. And so there is, again, it's production. There is a difference in cost and price because price we sell it to you guys has to make up at least the difference or the cost that we're putting into the process. It's costs of goods manufactured, and so if we're not even hitting that, we're not even breaking even, which doesn't make this feasible whatsoever. So know that there is kind of a variation there, especially in the process. So a few of the options that we had and Chris and I discussed heavily throughout this entire process thus far is material use, right? So yeah, I'm sure any of you who are already in business or at least in production have noticed raw materials have also gone up. So, I mean, hell, even aluminum is more expensive, and that's not even getting into 17.4 or 416 stainless steel. Like this, it doesn't even have to be like an exotic alloy or anything. Just like the normal raw materials, normal metals are a lot more expensive now. And, when you're kind of doing this prototyping phase, it is a lot of trial by fire, right? So we have our designs, but those designs are just ideas, right? That's all they are up until you send it to a shop and they're actually making it. So you need your first article part, and we might get together and it's like dog shit, right? So
It
or
won't.
it won't. But I'm saying hypothetically, but
You never know until that product comes.
right, or even functionality too. Even away from fitment, if you're talking about muzzle devices, even it could look nice, very aesthetic. But we all have seen those parts. Anybody who's been in the gun community, right? You buy a muzzle brake, you're like, damn, I really like that price. It's not too cheap, but it isn't gonna break my wallet. Great. And then you order one and you end up threading it on the end of your barrel, take it out to the range, excited as hell, and it doesn't do a damn thing. It's a nice paperweight, though. It's a good looking paperweight. And so we didn't want to really offer that either. We needed something that was definitely aesthetically pleasing. We wanted our stuff to look nice, like real nice, but make we didn't want to emphasize exclusivity or elitism or anything. Like, we're not trying to make, 4-figure parts. I mean, we could, but we really don't want to. That's not within our core ideology. That's not what we believe should be happening, especially in this phase of the community.
And so, just so that way, our viewers actually understand what our three tenets, right? What are our core philosophies for our company? It's showcasing American craftsmanship, making innovation more accessible, and promoting self-reliance, right? Those are our three core fundamental ideas and philosophies for our company. And if anything that we do moving forward conflict with any of those three, not all three, any of those three, we don't do it, right? So just so that way, so you all understand when Nick and I talk about the things that we've just been talking about with respect to innovation or accessibility, right? Those are our three fundamental philosophies that we cannot violate moving forward in anything that we do. So if you agree with, or if you support our philosophy of operation and our philosophy of business, please support our company. Everything that we're doing, like we just talked about before, all of our products, our firearm products, are going to be 100% American made, manufactured, as much as we possibly can. So we're not going to be cutting corners on any of that. That's basically, we want to make sure that we're promoting American industries and supporting America as a whole.
It's showcasing what we do,
Yeah.
what we are capable of here at home, And so, with that being said, for anybody who's not in business or thinking about getting into business or already have a business and don't necessarily do that, I highly advise that you guys do draft a business plan, legitimate business plan. I mean, we mulled over that for months and months, and that was even with prior planning and previous drafting of that plan on my behalf. Just another thing, when you get business partners into the mix, you've now established a team, right? The team is not just one person. So everybody has to kind of coalesce or be cohesive and feel good about what's in that document. And much over that, internally, that core ideology with those principles, it's more internal instead of external. It's nice to, preach about it and let people know. I'm sure they'd like it, but that's more for you. And so if some of you are at home thinking, well, why are you so staunch on that? Like, you're strict about those things. There's a reason behind that, because when you're in business, that's how you can lose sight of, well, I mean, I guess your identity, your company's identity. That's who you are. Just in a nutshell, I mean, it's those three principles. So if you violate that, you've lost yourself, right? You've lost a chunk of your identity in that. So in Chris and I's case, sure, man. I mean, we could go out and run flared magwells that definitely we could rack up that cost to. I mean, we could be selling $300 flared magwells if we really wanted to, and some would argue, yeah, it'd be worth it. We'll go over that later, but that's not us.
Or we could be selling $15 flared mag wells. Might
Honestly.
it might pose a threat to your own personal safety. You know what I mean? But yeah, so like I said, there's how many companies are out there that offer innovation in the cheapest possible fashion, right? To get what do they have huge markups, right? They get the cheapest material from overseas. They get another country to manufacture it.
Or it's designed and manufactured
Or one of my
overseas.
personal favorites, designed in America. That's about it.
Yeah.
And manufactured somewhere else, or what one of the other ones, assembled in America. That means that if you got two parts that were made in another country, they get the two parts in America. Somebody says assembled in America, right? So no,
Yeah.
we're doing with our company everything that we possibly can with our firearm parts. Designed here, it's manufactured here. Everything about it is America. Everything we do is meant to be as much as possible 100% American made to support American industries, to keep our money here and to support.
And that's the biggest point though, is for anybody listening to this again, it's not necessarily we're taking a jab at other countries, but in the grand scheme of things, if you're starting a company, well, in our case, we're starting a company, one of our core principles is showcasing American craftsmanship. So how can
kind of
you
hard to do
honestly,
that if we're manufacturing it somewhere else.
yeah, how can you claim that
You can't.
if that's the case? Yeah. So, but even outside of that too, a secondary point to that same note, that same principle is, you know, it's not a jab at another country. It's not. Some excel in that area, really. They're known for precision, and it's nothing against them. But it's our point, our perspective that if we were to start a company and we are showcasing American craftsmanship and we're celebrating the American heritage of firearms, and we're trying to emphasize and hone in on this American made, American designed and made, right? It doesn't make too much sense to support the economy of another country. We would really hope to support America's economy.
And America's self-reliance, which is number 3 of our core ideology, which is supporting self-reliance. That isn't just necessarily firearms. Promoting us, America, being self-reliant. If we can get the ball rolling and start a trend, we're not even starting a trend. We're not doing something new, but we're
reinventing.
No, we're taking this idea of self-reliance, American manufacture, right? I would love nothing more than for America to be more self-reliant upon herself, not another country, not for another country's gas or their freaking energy, not for another country's freaking manufacturing, right? I think
it's just their economy in general. Yeah,
we need to be more self-reliant. Anyways, the point is we made sure that these 3 core philosophies of ours are very, very specific and very purposeful. Not purposeful. What would you say? Very intentional.
Yeah,
intentional, right? And so,
and again, take your politics out of this. For our company alone, that philosophy in and of itself, it's just us supporting home. Because regardless, again, take your politics aside, I don't want to go too far with that. Remove any sort of bias that you have on the country or the administration or any politics, and take all of that out and put it aside for a second.
This shouldn't even be a political thing.
Yeah, it shouldn't, but it is heavily. But with that being said, this is still our home. And so I'd much rather support the economy at home rather than handing those funds or stimulating the economy of another country.
That shouldn't be political at all.
It shouldn't.
If for some reason you find that being political, then we're not talking to you. You know what I mean? Basically, we're not talking to you.
But getting back to production. Yeah.
Well, technically, we're supposed to be getting back
to the parts.
Shotgun. Well, we were doing parts with the shotgun. Now, did we want to say? Did we want to say something about having our ported?
So
our chokes not being ported.
Okay, so
shit, making sure that we're not, we don't just want to make something look good, like you're in a freaking duck blind and you got this cool little choke that's on this side.
Hey, shout out to my cousin Mike.
So Mike,
I muffed up on that one. I was getting too deep into designing something tactical. Well, all right, it does what it's supposed to. However, for the intention, let's bring this back so it makes sense to them. For the shotguns, or the platform that we're running is the Winchester SXP. It's a pump shotgun. Um, one of the most sold pump shotguns. Outside of what, like the Maverick 88 or something like that. It's cheaper. Yeah,
Right, because it's
yeah. But it's good though. It's
is it
good.
still
That's a
like, is
good
it
pump
still
gun.
sub 200?
Oh, it's actually right at about 200. Yeah, 2 to 300. But with the Winchester SXP Black Shadow, which is the platform that we use to design these shotgun parts, there obviously is a lot of compatibility
Yeah.
with other guns, especially with the part we're about to talk about is the ported chokes, or well, choke tubes. Um, there was a lot of iterations of that choke tube, just to make something that maybe somebody hasn't seen before and isn't too outlandish on that design. But again, shout out to my cousin Mike for bringing this up. Kind of got lost in designing, right? Trying to make things tactical and aesthetic, but we really wanted to dial back the aesthetic emphasis and bring back some more of that form and function, right? And so we originally wanted to run ported choke tubes, which we still are, but only for the profiles of cylinder and improved cylinder. For the modified choke tubes and the full choke, we are not running porting on those. Yeah, because it doesn't make any damn sense if you're hanging out in a blind and you got guys on all sides, on both sides of you, or just anywhere in that blind with you. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're gonna catch some gas on the face. I think you just got beef, dude.
Clear out your sinus a little bit.
But yeah, for the ported choke tubes, two of them will be ported. The other two will not be because they will be more for hunting applications, mod and full. So the cylinder and improved cylinder, those are more geared towards competition use, right? Because the profile, there's no ramping. It's the cylinder is literally more all the way through, and yeah, it's more uh, competition applications. And so that took last minute revision to that design. But yeah, thank you again, Mike. Appreciate that. And that's what we hope to also do within our community once the business really starts getting its wheels turning. We really wanted to get our community involved in that design process. So if we pitch something, let's say on social media, Chris here does a post and we're like, hey, we're jumping in on this part for this platform. What do you guys think about this material or this design feature? And we would be more than happy with you guys coming back at us and saying, dude, that is garbage, dog. Like, dude, you should not run that. Please. We would take that,
With a grain of salt.
Yeah, with a grain of salt.
Grain of salt.
But we do want other people's opinions before we go down the road of, dishing out the funds or the capital for production and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we're definitely not people that think that we know what you're gonna like, right? We know what we like. We know what we think looks pretty freaking cool, but we're under no illusion that we think that whatever we think looks cool, everyone else will as well. So
Right. And so with that, we are running choke tubes for the Winchester SXP, but we're also running mag tube extensions for the SXP. Now, for a lot of you shotgun guys out there, guys and gals, and you will know that there's a vast amount of compatibility, right? So the thread pattern we're using for the choke tubes is in Vector Plus. So you guys can, that's a simple Google search. There's tons of shotguns that use that thread pitch. So just know we will probably post that in the product descriptions on our site. So you may not have to go out and Google and trust people on the internet because we'll do that hard work for you. We'll actually have a chart of the other shotguns for compatibility purposes. Maybe it will work with yours. So look out for that.
wasn't that like
Huh?
is it the thing where people are like, they don't really, they make you go out. Is that we're doing that?
A bit, yeah, a little bit.
Are we touch? That's not like any kind of third rail that we'd be touching, like some unspoken fucking manufacturer.
No, 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 no. I will mention that too. That was a pain in the ass. Try to figure out the threading for that, and if any of you end up getting involved in getting your business in the gun industry going,
Yeah, we're not going to be able to tell you every single thing
yeah,
that we can't have a whole list of every freaking model and
every
variation,
dimension,
yeah,
every thread
everything. But
pitch, yeah,
but as long as that says this and this says that, you're good.
exactly. And yeah, it took a lot of research, as most things do in business, but this was exceptionally hard to find that information.
For a particular reason too, not just because I think there's a reason why.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that
A lot of companies kind of profit off of people not knowing this will work on that.
there's a lot of proprietary information out there. They want to make sure, hey, you got those dimensions because you pulled them off our gun because you bought one. So in the end, they still got your money, and that's okay though. That's okay. I mean, we still got our answers. It took a lot, but yeah, we got our answers. That's fine. But in terms of innovation for these parts, you want to dive into that? Should we dive into that?
Well,
The
the
material
innovations
use and stuff?
No,
No?
not yet.
Okay.
We don't even got. We still got to get the thing on it.
Ah, that's right. Okay. So,
We tried. This is a business.
yeah.
We can't let them know everything right off. I want.
Right.
Real soon. Not in due time.
In due time.
In
Okay.
due
So,
time.
for production though, yeah, it's kind of tricky because we did want and had full intentions on being manufacturers. However, that takes a lot of capital, upfront capital, especially for equipment and then a workforce. And it's just a plethora of things to go over first, and everything costs money. Nothing's free in business. So, um, yeah, there was a lot to mull over there. And uh, for production, we did have to go out and find people who we were cohesive with. And a lot of guys you'll find if you run to other shops, say you have an idea, you went out and you're like, hey, I have this killer idea, man. Can you guys run it for me? If you are getting started in the gun industry, you'll notice that some shops just don't like your community or like what you're about to do. So they will not help you. They will not help you. So be prepared for that. And then there will be others though that really do like your idea and they will say anything to get your project and they just can't keep up with your demand or they just can't perform. They can't give you what you're looking for as a company. So or quality wise or otherwise. So that took a lot of research and a lot of interviewing of different shops, different people, and we did have to be careful because some shops were actually pretty scared or nervous. I won't say scared, but nervous to run gun parts because they haven't run any gun parts before, even though they're in pretty prestigious industries that require tight tolerances and whatnot, and they use some materials.
Sorry.
All right, and for all of these different parts, we didn't want to just run, you know, numbers or little codes for each part. We wanted to do something a little different. So we are making a muzzle brake and two pistol compensators. The brake, we're actually calling it the Jaeger brake, regardless what you want to hunt. I guess you could call it. Yeah. And then the two pistol compensators, one we actually designed around the Glock 17 platform, a little bit more boxy. Um, yeah, a lot more rigid lines, but still sexy nonetheless. And that one we're calling the jukebox. And the one that we designed around the M&P, that pistol compensator, we're calling straight razor. And you'll see why. Once we roll out the parts on that kind of let's not dive too far into that.
No,
They'll see
too
it.
much into it.
They'll see it. So
What is a muzzle brake, Nick?
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's go over that. Yeah, let's go over that really
quickly,
quick.
just real quick.
Okay, yeah.
For some of our uninitiated, newer firearm community family members.
Yeah.
Nick, what's the difference between a muzzle brake and a compensator?
Okay, well, a muzzle brake, you use the expelled gases that trail behind the bullet, and as they're making their way out of the different ports of the muzzle brake, they're deflecting off of a hard surface. And that resistance is what's pulling the gun back down, whatever gun it is. And there is a difference between a muzzle brake and a compensator. Um, I'm sure if you do any amount of shopping for gun parts, you'll see it. Like some companies do still have that misconception. But yeah, that's for a muzzle brake. Compensators, trying to achieve the same thing, but through a different method. Uh, it will take those expelled gases and use still high velocity. They're not trying to slow down the velocity of the gases because they're using that directional dispersion of those gases of the different ports to mitigate that recoil and keep your platform, your firearm level. So, trying to achieve this little similar things and identical things, just in a different manner, even though it might look the same to the naked eye.
Nice.
Simple enough.
Okay. What about a flared magwell? You said something about a flared magwell. I'll take this one. So, for those of you that don't know what a flared magwell is, give me the pistol. Give me the piece, please. Give me the.
You want it emptied?
No.
Safety for a
I'm
kid.
empty.
I
See?
bet you are.
It's
Go.
not. Yeah, only after you emptied me. Gay. Right. So, what a flared magwell is? This is a magwell. Okay.
A
This is
factory
a
frame.
factory frame. This is a magazine. This is the magazine well. It's like a well, but for a gun. So what happens is if you see here, very it's you gotta go straight in, right? But a flared magwell, it kind of it's a piece right here, right at the bottom that if you're when you go to reload your magazine quickly without having to stare at it and follow it in, you could be slightly off, hit the side, and it'll guide that magazine more, into the freaking well itself. So that way, I mean, it's good that when you change a magazine, that it's up here in your workspace. So you do it like this. But it's just so that way in high stressful situations, you're fine. Your motor functions don't work as well. You kind of freak out a little bit. And so any advantage that you have, which is what we talked about in the first episode of Ghost Stories, any edge that you have, if it stops you from hitting it couple times or even just once, that one time of you having to redo it is basically going to save you potentially, you know it could potentially be life-saving for you. It's one less thing that you have to worry about when you're when you're trying to get your firearm to perform the way it's supposed to, which is really talking about you performing the way that you're supposed to.
And again, this doesn't
You
replace
missed
practice.
gay look, bro.
Yeah,
Now that just made me feel hella gay.
if you feel it. So flared magwell will look like a ring that kind of wraps around the factory magwell area right here. So what that does is it adds a bevel on the inside, like a ramp. So where what Chris was just showing, if you smack it there, it stops. Now, for a lot of us who, I mean, I'm not going to say operators because not all of us are, not everybody's an operator, but with anybody who's actually using a firearm and they're trying to practice reloads or whatever, most of you would say, all right, you're dumb. You should practice more. I mean, yeah, it's like that is pretty true though.
Yeah.
I mean, you could just practice that over and over and over again, and you would get those motor skills in, like really dialed in. For let's say the first time gun owner, you did buy a pistol for self-defense. You're gonna be like this, and it could stop, and it's just clipping a small area right there, but it will stop. But with the flared magwell, it uses with that inside bevel, you're actually using deflection where that stopped it. Magwell would just deflect it right in, right?
And there are varying levels of the magwell, right? You have some that stick out a lot more, that makes it a lot easier for you, but then there are smaller ones. You might want a thinner profile. You might have something that is your everyday carry. You might be going appendix carry.
Ooh, we should bring that up. We
just
that. Well, no. Well,
I just did.
so no. We should actually explain that because there is a difference. You will see some flared magwells that are quite thin. If you look at it from a side profile, those are actually intended for EDC. Now you might be thinking, well, that doesn't give very much surface area to that bevel.
It's still a little bit. It's
And
a little more than
helps.
not. What it does is, what it really essentially does is that it just takes away the hard edges. Even if it's just a little bit, it just gives you a little bit around, right? So, which, like I said, it could be the difference between,
Life or
getting
death.
that I don't want to talk about getting shots off necessarily right now, but
Okay.
in that situation, it could be a life. It's an edge, man. It's just another small edge that could end up being the edge that you need in a life or death situation.
Oh, and without diving too far into the weeds on circumstances where this could be useful in application, huge thing that we wanted to incorporate in the design of our flared magwells, which surprisingly not a lot of companies really, not very many companies
Probably
did
should
that.
go empty.
We should. Thank you. So, without diving too far into the weeds of application,
You're like, what are they doing? To the full mag? To the full mag? To the full mag? What awful. What sort of program are they supposed to be? Hey, by the way, calm down. Don't play with your guns loaded. Obviously, we're professionals. That doesn't mean that something can't go wrong. Look, there's nobody back here. All right.
yeah, we're not flagging anybody.
Just
There's a camera.
these are actually dummy rounds.
They look real.
Yeah, they've been. We don't use snap caps. They actually look like real.
Don't worry about that. I snap his cap all the time. We snap our caps all the time.
What would that look like?
Don't think too much about it. But yeah, all right. So one of the things. So one of the factors one of the features that we wanted to apply to our designs, and we made it a huge point to. We were actually rather surprised doing our research on these parts. Most companies who make flared magwells, you have to buy the mag extensions because it doesn't company or allow for the stock magazine, the stock base plate, factory base plate, to work with their flared magwells. Some of them do, yeah, but not as many as we would have thought. So for those of us that can't really go out and buy 5 mag extensions, but we can get the flared magwell, and we do see the utility in that. We made our flared magwells allow for the factory base plate. So something to keep in mind.
One of the things a lot of people ask is, hey, what do you recommend for my first firearm? And one thing that we typically always ask you is, what are you getting it for? What's the philosophy of use for that firearm? And most people typically tend to say that it's for home defense, right? A lot of people, unless you're in a free state that has constitutional carry just means that if you can legally own a firearm, you do not have to have a concealed carry permit to conceal the firearm. Most states are not like that, and you would need a concealed carry permit, which actually isn't that difficult in many states, depending on the county actually that you stay in too. California is
not a shall issue.
It's not a shall issue, but in Sacramento County, the sheriff that we just had recently kind of approved it.
Nice.
So if you live in San Francisco County and you're a San Francisco resident, you are not allowed to have a concealed firearm. If I, from Sacramento, go down to San Francisco, I can have a concealed carry.
Nice.
But because you're a San Francisco resident, you can't. So But getting back to it, a lot of people say it's for home defense, right? So then that comes down to what would you recommend, Nick, would be a good first home defense weapon for maybe somebody who's never owned a firearm?
Well, there's two factors I like to consider, and you kind of already touched on one, which is intention and purpose.
Mm.
That is pretty critical, right? Are you doing, if you're doing long range precision, look for a DMR design firearm, right? If you're doing a lot of
What does DMR stand for, Nick? That's a
designated marksman.
Jinx. You owe me a soda.
Right. So, yeah, it's a lot to do with intention and purpose. What are you using this firearm for? Because obviously there are some instances where you really shouldn't use one for the other. Um, but that being said, my second factor that I'll guess I'll put out there, unpopular opinion for many, is that practice. You know, it's what are you practicing with? I mean, I'm sure a lot of guys, especially old timers, will tell you like, crazy stories about, oh, my cousin shot a 22 out to like 800 yards.
Killed a
But
deer.
can you? Yeah, killed a deer. Yeah.
After
I mean,
all, we used to hunt deer with.
hey, but seriously though, some can actually prove it. I mean, again, I'm not
But-
saying every story's true, but
However, nowadays that would be considered unethical.
it would be unethical. Well, in that hunting scenario that you just said, yes, that would be unethical. But in the grand scheme of things, it's two factors that I'll consider if anybody were to ask me: the intention slash purpose, because some firearms are just not built for that. No matter how hard you try or how much time you've put into that gun, training and practicing with that firearm, it's just not built for that. It's actually, well, it works against you in that case. The other is what have you practiced with? Because there's some guys that, again, like Clint Smith from Thunder Ranch, insane. That old timer is surgical with a shotgun. Now, if you were to ask him, I'm pretty sure he would say the same thing. Home defense, oh, shotgun. I mean, you ask other folks, a lot of guys in the gun industry, a lot of females too, would say, no, I don't want to use a shotgun for home defense. That thing's obnoxiously big. It's true. But still, point being, I would personally say shotgun, but that is just me. I've put a lot of practice into using a shotgun, and it's not all range time like, oh, I'm practicing, plinking with a shotgun. Not always just that, but you would also work on how you maneuver or your footwork, like you would transitioning between hallways to open spaces to, again, it's close quarters tactics, right? Like you want to know how to kind of like, some guys also, that's a huge thing, pie cutting, how you're slicing away that corner to actually see and not overexpose. So, all right, let me cut this back to my personal opinion. I would say shotgun. So, you have to have the intention to terminate the threat. You have to shoot with intention.
To neutralize it.
Yeah, to neutralize the threat. So, with that being said, other states do not share that opinion. Nevada does, and so do I. If your life is not under immediate imminent threat, then why did you even brandish that gun? And there are other ways. I mean, hell, look at law enforcement. So many cops out there, they, before ever even reaching for a taser or for their pistol, their sidearm, anything, they will try to,
Yes.
yeah, exactly, de-escalate the situation. Once they've had their try with that, dude, they can pretty much understand what's about to follow suit, right? They know what's coming. They know what's happening next. Then you can, I mean, it doesn't take that long to reassess the situation, but yes, you know what's happening next. And that's my 2 cents on it. I would say for home defense, shotgun.
Now, would you say a 12 gauge or a 20 gauge?
Either would do the trick, honestly. I would not recommend. Ammo selection. Don't use birdshot. Don't use birdshot. You would use buckshot, arguably slugs. If yeah, again, it goes back to practice. If you haven't practiced with that gun, do you really trust yourself? You feel confident enough to be throwing lead around your house? I mean, then that makes you the danger to you and yourself and everybody else. living there with you, or even your neighbors. Your neighbors, if you end up trying to choose, or if you end up choosing like a carbine or a rifle, dude, you don't want to hurt any of your neighbors, and you will go through a number of walls. And I would hate for anybody to be guessing how many
Yeah.
it would take to stop that. But yeah,
It takes a lot
what's
of drywall. I mean, if you hit a couple, 2x4s, it's
I
definitely
mean,
gonna,
yeah, yeah,
but with respect to the ammo selection, the shotgun definitely does have the most versatile selection of ammunition that you can use. Everything from a slug, which is essentially um, the most threat stopping.
devastating.
You know what I'm saying? But then you also have things like bird shot and salt shot, right? Like rock salt. Now,
Yeah.
bird shot is not something that you really want to use. However, you could definitely make the argument that it is one of the least lethal at distance. You're not really gonna necessarily neutralize a threat unless you just wanted the loud bang or something like that. There are a number of non-lethal munitions that you could use for a shotgun.
With 12 gauge, man, they
Yeah,
got the bean bags. They got, oh, well, you don't want to use fletchette. That's,
no,
yeah, like the rock salt is another option. But again, look into perspective of your state's politics and legislation, because some states are very against that.
yeah,
They do not like that. So if you, which undoubtedly, if you get into a situation like that, you will see your day in court. Undoubtedly. So when you are in court, you want to be on the side of favorability with your state's perspective. So again, Nevada believes in shoot to neutralize the threat. Other states are
like
warning shot.
yeah, it can be really complicated. That's why you want to make sure that you're checking, your local kind of state laws with respect to that. Now,
Yeah.
with regards to a shotgun, right? Like I would agree that a shotgun would be a great first weapon for home defense because of the different variety of ammunition that you have at your disposal with respect to over penetration protection, right? Um, if you're somebody that we always highly recommend that you get as much training as possible with any firearm that you're going to be employing for home defense or personal defense.
That
But
doesn't exclude us.
right, exactly. And however, see me personally, right? If I look at what I feel is my best home defense weapon, right? And this is just a personal thing in how I kind of operate. I think that a good pistol is a good home defense weapon. And the reason I say that is because I tend to have my pistol on me, even when I'm at home, right? So having
I mean, it's
this
not a long gun, so you can tuck it
right,
and hide it in
exactly. So
different
if so,
places.
it depends on what type of home defense situation you're talking about. If you're talking about something goes bump in the night and you're in your bedroom, then yeah, I'm probably gonna go for my shotgun, right? Because I know where my kids' rooms are. I typically I know where they're at during certain times of the day, and I do have a decent amount of training with the firearm in indoors and whatnot. But it really all depends. If it's a bump in the night and you have a choice of what to grab right there, whatever, then yeah, you could go with a shotgun. But for myself, typically just on any normal day, like let's say during the daytime, you get a knock on the door, right? Most people don't have a freaking firearm right next to the front door.
No,
But
not
if you
anymore.
already have a firearm that you're already carrying, right? I understand that, oh, you're at home. You don't want to carry a firearm at home.
Dude, you never
But
know.
it depends on how prepared you want to be, right? Some people look at being prepared as paranoia, and you can look at that way if you want. I look at it as you're hanging out downstairs with your family watching a movie, and somebody decides they want to kick in your door. Right now, it in a place where I live, that's not necessarily something that people would argue is likely to happen, right? But then when you
Nobody ever thinks it's likely until it happens to them, you know?
exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I look at a pistol being your best first line of defense, right? Because you're not always going to be in a position to go run to your freaking bedroom, open up your gun safe, and then go run back out to the threat, especially when you have little ones in the freaking house. So, me personally, my philosophy of use is my first line of defense is a pistol if you're going to have it on you.
You can actually your maneuverability with the pistol. You can actually. It's all right. I
Real
will
tight,
admit it. Yeah.
especially if you're
Yeah.
opening a door and somebody's right there at the door, right? If you could talk to them through the door or whatever, through your little ring device or something like that. But worst case scenario that you did not anticipate whatsoever, you had no heads up about, you answer the door, somebody may be a little suspicious, right? You should always kind of be a little suspicious of anybody that comes to your door. Not that you
Slightly
don't trust
cynical.
anybody, but always have this plan in the back of your head, right? That something could go wrong at at any moment. If you get into a real tight scuffle or something, they try to force their way into your home, you got your pistol right there, appendix carry. I prefer appendix carry. You got it right there, man.
But you know what? On that same note, since you brought up kids, we are both family men, right? We're both dads. We got children in the home. With that topic, we do strongly believe in tight security and storage. Obviously, everybody's kids are different. Some people they have curious children, right? So if they see dad or if they see mom, you know, getting into one of their concealed, what do they call it? Concealed furniture. Yeah, like the drop shelves.
Yeah, with the magnetic sort of key to release. Yeah.
And some of them don't even have a key. Most of them don't have a key. Yeah, with things like that, just be mindful, be careful. You're the parent in that scenario. You know your kid better than anybody.
And on top of that, state laws, right?
Yeah.
So one thing is in California, if you're a resident of California, your children are not allowed to know the combination to your safe. Right? Your children are not allowed to have access to your firearms. In California, you must keep your ammunition locked up in a different safe. That is not the safe where your firearms are at.
Oh, bullshit, really?
Yeah. So um, it like I said, check your state laws and whatnot. It can get a little complicated, man. But hey, watch out for our ghost stories in the future. I mean, wait, technically, we can't tell everybody about their own state laws, man. It's
No, but we
that's
can.
just something that you have to really kind of start looking into for yourself. If
Yeah.
it's important to take your Second Amendment rights seriously.
I mean, it's worth it if you live there and you intend on staying there in that state, in that
Yeah.
home. It's worth looking into.
It's always worth it. Even in
Yeah.
California, it's worth it to do your best to try to find out what your state laws are, what you're allowed to, what you're permitted to do in your state. And when you find that you don't like the limited permission that you're allowed, then that's when you start becoming a voice for constitutional rights
Yes.
and fundamental human right, self-defense. So like I said, if on a normal average day home defense, I would say a pistol. Obviously, get as much training as you can possibly afford, even if you can't afford necessarily professional training. You know, YouTube universities typically it's not something that's necessarily going to give you legal advice. They will not give you legal advice, first of all.
Take
But
that.
right, but that's how you become initiated in the community, right? That's how you start to learn about what you should or shouldn't do. There's all sorts of ways that you could train for free.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of really good stuff. I'm starting to get low. Oh, however, if you're talking about a bunker type of home defense, right? Huh. I mean, yeah, I'm gonna go with the shotgun with some slugs, um, and then and the pistol on the side.
And I really do like shotguns for that because they're not unless you're getting into some like higher end Benellis and Frankies and everything. Like the shotgun itself can be a relatively cheap,
Super reliable
yeah,
too.
very, very.
Super reliable.
And no, we're not talking about gas our inertia shotguns here, we're talking mechanical, right?
Yeah.
They're pump guns. I mean, very reliable. They're as reliable as you operate it. So, I mean, I yeah.
Ask Robert. Hey, Robert, how's that shotgun working out for you?
But with that being said, though, yeah, we do. Again, I say shotgun, he says pistol, but I think we both are kind of in agreement. It's whatever firearm you can honestly say I practice substantially with this,
Yeah.
you know, and you feel confident with yourself and your abilities with that gun. I mean, who can argue with accuracy, right?
Yeah.
Practice makes accuracy, and you can, yeah, you.
And, President Joe Biden would agree with you too that a shotgun is probably the best weapon for a home defense. And I say this because President Joe Biden specifically said on air in an interview that if you're ever worried about something, don't do this. Okay, first of all, if
This
you're ever,
is not legal advice.
this is not legal advice. When President Joe Biden said that he told his wife, Jill Biden, that if she was ever unsure about something, and thinks that there might be danger out there, open the front door and put 2 shotgun blasts out the front door, and whatever threat there would be would go away.
If you want to protect yourself, get a double barrel shotgun, have the shells, a 12 gauge shotgun, and I promise you, as I told my wife, we live in an area that's wooded and somewhat secluded. I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here or walk out, put that double barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts outside the house. I promise you, who's ever coming in is not going to, you don't need an AR-15. It's harder to aim, it's harder to use, and in fact, you don't need 30 rounds to protect yourself. Buy a shotgun. Buy a shotgun.
Do not, under any circumstance, do that in any state.
No.
That's don't listen to President Joe Biden with respect to how to operate a firearm. So yeah. Anyways, that's we could talk all day about home defense. Plenty of people on YouTube they offer such in depth sort of conversations about just that. I recommend that you learn as much as you can.
Dive into the rabbit hole.
Yeah, dive
There's
into it.
Hours,
Yeah.
months, years worth of content out there. You can sift through all of that stuff yourself, and those kind of videos are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
For home defense. But for the time being, let's jump into financial updates.
Okay.
So to tailor this back over to our business and our experiences, we could go over some financial stuff that I think would be, interesting for many who are looking to start a business. Again, we are trying to make Ghost Stories a podcast where we're talking about several different things. Our experiences in business, and we'll take you guys along that journey. From here on out, now we're recording, so you guys are going to get this progressively in bite-sized chunks, right? So we went over production earlier, so I guess we could jump into financial, right? And like we mentioned before, some things are going to be great. Other things, many times, we're going to have shortcomings, right? We're going to have shortfalls in the process. And financially speaking, we've had many. So, let's go ahead and dive into
jump
that.
into the funding options first.
Funding options. All right. So, me having a business background already, and then Chris coming onto the team, it actually did work pretty well because as much, obviously, Chris had questions, him being a business partner, that was great because, I would have to walk things through, but that's not just for the sake of walking him through things. That was also for my sake, about how I could kind of talk things through in my head and just keep track of all these moving parts. Now with funding options, a normal business, you would have SBA loans, and they got several different types of loans, right? And then you also have private organizations. Verizon, I think, is doing one. I think some of the banks are doing some. And anyways, private companies and organizations are also giving out business grants. You should look into your state actually offers some. The U.S. government actually has their own grants. However, that is shortfall number one for us, being in the industry that we are in and our line of work, there are virtually no small business loans or grants that are 2A friendly for gun companies. And that was huge for us because I hate to say it this way, but I was almost kind of relying on it for a while there, saying, oh, yeah, we'll get the money when it comes. We'll go out and get a business loan. The SBA has things, or we could go to this bank and get a business loan through them.
Boy, were you wrong.
No kidding, man. Yeah, that was such a rude awakening because we started this company. We're obviously hopeful as hell. We got this vision in mind for the business, not even just for now as a startup. We actually kind of structured plans for even in the future, not entirely in depth as much as possible, obviously, because we're not in that phase yet. But we did have plans for the future when we hit certain milestones. Anyways, long story short, there's not many options at all for gun companies.
No.
And besides loans, you do have crowdfunding or investors. That took a lot of talks, a lot of discussions between us on, again, when you're in a team, it's not just your opinion that matters, it's everybody's who's in the team. Everybody has to be in on this plan. If not, you got a weak link in your chain. So it
Kink,
can all,
if you will.
a chink in your chain. Yeah, but it'll all fall apart. The whole thing will disseminate because somebody might have bitter feelings or resentment. In the end, if a decision's made, yeah, it's always best to have everybody on board. If you can't make that decision cohesively, don't do it because
if not everybody's rowing, you ain't going straight.
Right.
You get to where you're going.
Right, and it's just not healthy for your business relationship, especially if you guys are part of a team. And in our case, we're the executive team for this company, right? I mean, those are top tier positions within the company. Big decisions are made here. So you can't have anybody falter in those decisions, feeling resentment or being bitter about something. That can't happen. It just causes it's a time bomb. You're waiting for it all to just kind of implode at some point. And we decided that we were going to stick to our guns. And yeah, jokes. Yeah, we were going to stick to our guns, though. We're going to be who we're going to be. We want to keep this business sustainable. We want to keep this team of ours cohesive, make decisions together that everybody's satisfied with. And in the talks of investors, though, there are what you have to understand about crowdfunding or investors. Different people are going to want different things. So they are giving you in your business capital. It's all what you feel comfortable with in your situation, right? How desperate are you for the funds? I mean, there's several different factors that play into that. And just understand that there's different criteria and desires, wants in that deal from all different ends. So for us, we decided we wanted to run the company our way, and we didn't want anybody changing that. So we decided we wanted to run our company our way. We didn't want anybody impeding in that. I mean, it took us so long to just come to an agreement on all of these different principles and our core ideology, our company philosophy, what we're about, what do we want from this? What do we want our company to give to the people? I mean, there's so many different things behind that. And we just got settled on all of this, and we don't want someone else, not saying it would happen, but we don't want somebody else to chip in and change that. So the idea was we did not, for one, want to hand over any percentage of ownership. Some investors want that, especially for the capital that they would be offering to you. So in some cases, someone would say, yeah, I'm willing to give you $250,000 tomorrow.
For 20%.
Yeah, for 20%. And really, though, what does that mean to you? If you're selling, coolers, if you're going to be the next Yeti,
Yeah.
I mean, cool. I mean, if that works within your system and that works with your team or you, if you're a solo entrepreneur, then I mean, great. And that's an option for you. But in our case, we went over what we would want or didn't want from an investment deal and handing over ownership percentages. That's tough, dude.
That's a big deal.
For us, yeah.
Now, and of course, there's always the idea that, well, you could look at it this way: you could keep 100% of your company that isn't going to make any money, or you could give up 5%, 10% that gives you exactly what you need to actually start making real money. Right. And so there's so much, there's so much that goes into that. We're exploring our options. And it just seems as time goes on, typically what happens is when you have fewer and fewer options, you do begin to accept that you may have to concede certain things. And we're trying to maintain as much as we can.
And that's one big factor for business, in case any of you are actually, again, looking into starting your own business. The nature of business is very fluid. It's very dynamic. Things are always changing. Your playing field is always changing. Things are going to come up that you already had plans that depended on that. And that one part of your plan just completely fell through. You can sit there and cry about it, or you can get things done still and figure it out. Because that's what business is going to take. Is on the fly, just figuring something out. We got a problem. Hey, I'll jump in. You can ask Chris too. I'll call his ass in the middle of the damn night, and hey, dude, situation critical, right? Hey, we got to figure this out like now, And again, with manufacturing too, we didn't have the capital to start by grabbing all these different CNC machines, the mills, the lathes, or like an injection molding machine that would cost upwards of like third of a mil, it required so much, but then we decided, okay, maybe we can outsource our manufacturing. Well, again, we had that core ideology of designed and manufactured here in America, everything made in America, so that we can stand by our claim of celebrating our American heritage and craftsmanship with firearms. We can't claim that if we take the manufacturing component and outsource it overseas. That's a totally different story. But again, things fall through in your plan in business always. And I think one skill that's been lost, like in a major way, in these days is adaptability, right? So how well are you able to just adapt and roll with the punches? I mean, there's several things. I mean, you could talk about some of that too, with like the marketing and okay, I'll mention something. I got something from him saying when we were going over the tasks in one of the Monday meetings, and stay organized, guys, please, please. If you're starting a business, stay organized. With the Monday meetings, one of them, I asked him to give me a deadline. Hey, we got a list of tasks. Hey, what are your deadlines for all this? So I know your timeline. We can work with my timeline and everything. So it keeps the entire operation cohesive. He gave me very aggressive deadlines. Like there was a part of it, there was a part of me that was like, that's cutting it real close, bro. And he's like, no, I got this. And that's great. No, but that's great though, because that showed a level of ambition and commitment to the task.
But a lack of understanding of exactly what everything was going to take to accomplish those things.
And with no leniency or give for issues. That just things you can't call. The totally unexpected happen. And you're like, hey, dude, I'm not even going to be at my house for like the next 3 days. Something big came up.
Especially like Nick said, we're both family guys, right? I got a couple kids and kids are growing and they got stuff. They got sports stuff going on. They got school stuff going on.
Friends.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, friends, events, birthdays, camping and stuff like that.
Anything.
Yeah, and so if you're in a position like we are, where you're wearing multiple hats, right? That's another thing that you really have to be careful for, right? Like if you're just looking at, okay, I got this thing. He's asking me for a deadline. I'm visualizing what this should take, right? It's really easy to get carried away and make a really ambitious deadline, right? When you don't really take into consideration, right? Like take myself for example. If I'm doing the social media posts and if we're creating the merchandise, if we're doing, creating logos and designs and whatnot, I I'm not just getting all this social media stuff out. I'm not just trying to create these apparel designs and whatnot. Um, I'm also learning how to do that at the same time, right? I'm learning how to use Canva. I'm learning how to use Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, Corel Vector, right? Like all these different things. Well, at first it was Corel. Now we've migrated over to Adobe, right? And it's such a learning curve. And when you think to yourself, okay, I should be able to do something like this, but then you realize, how the heck do I do this simple freaking thing, right, in Adobe Illustrator?
So to put that in perspective for all of you at home, as we're thinking it, but you obviously aren't here in the minutia of the everyday for us. Even me, I just got my degree, my bachelor's in business, and I've been taking all these classes, not just like business, but management, accounting, all those classes. I'm still learning, and I've actually had business experience before. I'm still learning, and then Chris over here taking on all of the marketing, all the advertising, ton of like the digital design work,
Website.
web development. I mean, he is learning as he goes. But aren't we all? Like it
No,
doesn't.
we're not. We're not all, because not everybody decides we're going to start our own company because
True.
we don't think that these other companies are doing it right. They're doing it right in their own way. If their idea was, if their bottom line is money, is profit, they're going to do it the right way for them. They're going to outsource materials and manufacturing from other countries, right? Give you a little bit of innovation, and because they're the only ones that have it, they're going to freaking mark that crap up. So, but what?
Large.
But that's their. We can't say that they're not doing it right, right? They're not doing it right if they had our core philosophies. And as far as we know, there are no other companies that we're aware of, especially in the firearm industry, that have the three core philosophies that we have. Right. Once again, making innovation accessible to a wider public, showcasing American craftsmanship, and supporting and encouraging self-reliance. Right. So when we have that's why we started this company. That's why we started Gost. We started Gost because we saw that there's a need for those three core philosophies in the company, in a company in the firearm industry. And we decided, instead of just complaining about it or thinking that somebody else should do it, that's why we decided to do it.
Be the change you want to see.
Right, exactly. So that's why Nick, as a CEO, he's taking care of pretty much everything legal, right? And I'm tasked with taking care of pretty much everything digital and marketing.
Well, not
And
just legal, but more operational. Operational.
my bad. Legal
I know
and
where.
operational, right?
And accounting.
He's the one that he's cranking out all these freaking designs for the part that
production.
you guys are going to see.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to be a little take away from you.
I'm not sensitive. It's okay, big girl.
No, you're not sensitive. I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
So even though we ran into funding problems, we did manage to find a way to supplement that revenue. So we ended up getting another revenue stream. That's why if you visited our website or you saw some of the adverts on Facebook, right? We do have branded merch. Now, although ideally we fully intended on rolling out our core offering first, which is the gun parts.
That takes money, like a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, y'all.
So we did find a way to still kind of try to raise money for that in a sense. I mean, branded merch is still a sold item. We are still selling branded merch, but our core offering is still gun parts.
Our core offering will always be gun parts.
Yes.
The branded merch is just another revenue stream to fund our production, basically. And and real recently, we just came upon another revenue stream.
Sneak preview. Start her off.
Do you like coffee?
I do.
Do you like beans?
I definitely do.
Get a load of these. Airdrop. Airdropping our beans into your mouth.
Do you love America? Do you love freedom? We got Liberty Blend.
Liberty Blend. The blend of liberty. Let me ask you a question, America. Do you take delight in defending your rights? Defenders delight. Is the Defenders delight.
And how big is your muzzle brake? Boom. We got a bean for that too. So yeah, we do have the branded merch. We're now rolling out coffee. So we should tell them about the subscription plan. We are gonna try to establish like a subscription plan because if you guys drink coffee half as much as we do, you're gonna constantly need it. We're gonna kind of roll out the subscription plan. What the fuck are you doing with your fucking face?
Just spit it out, bro.
So we are going to have a subscription plan for all you coffee lovers out there. And what's the next one?
Coffee.
No, after the fucking coffee.
You gotta tighten it up more than that.
And you tighten it up.
I can, but you can't.
So that's another offering that we're introducing to the community, to our followers or anybody that visits the website. Yeah. So it's not just going to be branded merch. We now have secured coffee.
Yes.
And they all come from local farms, small local family. Well, not local. They all come from small.
I wish
we had
local coffee beans.
No. So
they're all small grown family.
Small grown.
So basically, these coffee beans all come from around the world. We got Peruvian beans, we got Rwandan beans, we got Colombian beans, and we got some Ethiopian beans. And that's just for the beginning. Those are basically our initial offerings of coffee. These are all smaller family-owned farms, and they are only actually procured in 20-pound bag. And they're only procured in 20-pound shipments, right? So what does that mean? Basically, these beans that are going to be delivered to you, they're premium quality fresh beans that are roasted here in America, over in North Carolina. And unlike the beans that you get in the store shelves, those beans, you really do have no idea how long those beans have been sitting on the shelves. It could be months, it could be years, right? Because all these beans are procured in small batches, you're guaranteed that these beans are going to be fresh. I'm no coffee connoisseur, but I can assure you that if you've never actually had fresh, high quality coffee beans before, you're definitely going to notice a difference. As soon as you taste our beans, you're going to know that you've been missing out.
Oh God, that's like right.
Tell them it ain't so. Tell them it ain't so. As soon as our beans hit your lips, that was the first thought.
First beans you ever put in your mouth.
So, Nick, with any business, there are shortcomings. Can you explain to our audience what our shortcomings in design have been?
So with the designs, I guess describing the process might be best. So like, yes, you got a problem and you want to solve that problem. You create and draft a gorgeous design, a gorgeous part, but that doesn't translate to the end product for the end user, right? So I guess we could talk about like the muzzle brake. Okay, so those
yes, the Jagger muzzle brake.
the Jagger. Yeah, so there were a lot of things with the Jaeger brake when we first designed it. We overcomplicated the living hell out of that brake. I mean, there was so much porting on that damn thing, and not all of it made sense. It made sense to me, but until you run like a CFD analysis and you run that flow analysis on the part, you get not real world results, but you get results on that flow and the dynamic of that flow. And then you can kind of better assess the performance of that part. With us, it was a gorgeous part. It was a gorgeous part. That's what's
part
there.
of the part.
Yeah, that's part of the part. And again, looks gorgeous.
Why am I doing this? I could just B-roll.
Yeah. But again, it looks gorgeous. That little bit that you can see on this coffee bag, but that had a lot of issues. There were a lot of faults in that design.
Well, it's not that the design was flawed. It's that, once again, falling back on our company's philosophy, it violated one of our philosophies, which was accessibility, right? We absolutely could have had a shop create that, but it's not financially feasible, right? And because it's not financially feasible, that means that it's inaccessible to most people, which is why we had to, go back and revise the design.
Yeah.
In the future, once we have our own in-house production and our own SLS printer.
Yeah.
But then even though, look, it's kind of like those concept cars from car manufacturers, right? They make this beautiful,
they look so good
cars, and then when it comes out, they're like, that just looks like some 2018 Honda Civic or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but seriously though, yeah, there are a lot of issues that come up that you weren't expecting because it looks good on paper. And then once you send those files to a shop to help you actually get your first article parts and you run through the prototyping, outside of just fitment on the part itself or on the gun itself, you also have to factor in, again, like Chris was alluding to, what's your material cost going to be like? How many hours is it going to take of their labor? And when I say their labor, it's not simple labor. Like some of the parts we had designed initially, the first iterations, they would have required a fifth axis.
Yeah.
And for you machinists out there, know about that. Anyways, yeah, exactly. Not cheap at all. And we're talking about substantial time on that machine. So yeah, if we could have, but then that break would have been like almost $300 to run it out of some good steel, good quality American steel, and heat treated, and then you get it powder coated. Yeah, it's just the whole process. And that was the other thing too. Again, another factor in this is not just, here, I made your muzzle brake for you. Not everybody out there, I'm sure everybody who's watching this can attest to this. You don't always get raw steel finish. You have to get it. Again, what kind of steel are you using? Did you get it heat treated? And then the finish on it. I mean, it's steel, so you have to either get it powder coated or some companies paint theirs.
That's cheap shit.
But But regardless, it's a finish, and you got to pay for it. Regardless what finish.
Cerakote.
It can be nice.
You still got to heat treat that.
Again, it costs money though. And so at the end of the day, you have like 6 to 8 things that are factoring into the creation of that one part, the production of that one part. And so after all of it, yes, could we have made it? Sure.
Yeah.
But it, again, just like Chris was saying, it violates one of our core tenets, one of our core principles, which is making innovation more accessible. And that kind of, yeah. Yeah. And so it does take a lot, and it's a lot of trial by fire.
And it costs us money.
Yeah.
When
Testing it.
Yeah. Well, even when you design the product, it costs money. When you take it to a shop for quotes and they tell you, we got to go back and revisions in these 3D designs cost money.
Yeah.
Right. So it's definitely there's a balance that we have to play, right? And obviously we're going to err a little bit more on the ambitious side. We're not going to go for some easy, cheap, path. Just take it, freaking put it on a dang mill and then, drill some freaking holes around the dang thing in a really basic, sort of fashion. And that's not what we're about, right?
Because you end up losing the innovation part of it.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
again, our 3 core principles: accessible innovation, American craftsmanship, supporting and
Promoting.
God damn, why did I forget? And supporting and promoting self-reliance. So like I said, that's with the design setbacks, that's one of the heavy ones that kind of recently bit us in the buttocks.
Yes. And that also ties right back into production. I mean, we did, not to dive too far into the weeds on this, but before we get the part manufactured. However, in regards to our setbacks for production, again, the cost just gets driven up when you use quality materials. And when you're talking about materials, especially so for metals, right? It's aluminum. Are you running some really dog ass aluminum mystery metals? No. But are you running 6061? Are you running 7075 T6 aluminum? Are you, all right, if you want to run steels, because muzzle brake, right? The point being, are you running 17.4 stainless steel? Are you running 416 stainless steel? Where are you sending it? Or are you doing it yourself with the heat treat? God, man, there's just a bunch of different things. And who are you running to for anodizing of those aluminum parts or powder coating for the steel parts? So many things tie into the production that it's not that it made the parts unfeasible for us. At the end of the day, we could go out and still go out for the loan, but without quotes, we don't know how much we're even asking for. So all of this has to be refined. Our plan has to be concrete before ever going out for funding or investing, any of those. If you're asking for money, know how much you're asking for and what the hell it's going towards. So,
and one of the most important factors is location, right? Location. Nevada isn't exactly prime real estate for manufacturing these sort of components.
We're not a manufacturing town out here.
Right, exactly. So, but what would you say? Where exactly would you go, Nick, if you were, say, picking up shop to headquarter in a manufacturing and Second Amendment friendly state?
Yeah, I guess that is a good transition to that. Yeah, family and I decided that it's time to pick up and move. And yes, that means bringing the business with me. And I guess we have decided to go out to South Dakota, to Sioux Falls. And it's a pretty big step. And I know it might not be ideal in terms of the timing, considering we are still starting up, but I guess that's arguable, right? As a startup, moving, but a lot of moving parts here. And this kind of just throws another, not wrench in the plans, but it does throw an extra step in there.
But it does open up for an easier transition when we start doing production, depending on how quickly you move out there, how soon the move is finalized. Right, I'm sure that there may be some manufacturers in Sioux Falls that would
Definitely
really like to reach out to us and let us know. Maybe who would you recommend? Maybe your guys' shop is actually somebody that we should really take a look at. We we don't intend on just jumping from shop to shop. We treasure loyalty. Spirit Tactical, obviously, we're loyal. So if we find, I don't know, maybe you
If
want
we
to
find a good shop who's willing to work with us and go over designs and help us with the prototyping, we're almost out of the prototyping phase anyway.
Yeah.
We just need the first article parts to do some actual live fire and some real world testing.
Mhm.
So that should be fun. You guys will probably get content. Yeah, you probably get footage of that.
Probably.
No, you all right, you will get footage on that. But yeah, so the decision to move is final. We are leaving. However, that is another opportunity for us to settle in Sioux Falls. So we're excited to see what that brings for the company. And several factors played into it. I'm not saying Nevada treated us bad in any way. However, it was a mix between personal and business that I guess helped us make that or for start. No, that tied in or factored into making that decision. So yeah, for the Spirit Tactical, we'll be moving out to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and as a startup, we'll see where that takes us. And another series of setbacks happened in the social media arena. Maybe you could take over for that one since you're a digital representative.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything is perfectly fine, and I did a great job. No setbacks there, Nick. Back to you.
I'm a fucking angel. Everything's fucking perfect.
Yeah, so I don't have experience in social media, that's for sure. And everything that I'm doing, I'm learning as we're putting it out. There's so much there's so much that goes into SEO and SEM and algorithms and media platforms. There's so many different. You got Meta Suite, you got Meta Business Suite, you got Facebook pages, Facebook business pages, LinkedIn, all this and that.
And you don't want to overcommit yourself to one and then disregard the others.
Right. And so some of our social media setbacks was not posting enough, right? There's a lot that goes into SEO, that goes into SEM, all the social media management, different apps that you have to take, have control. There's advertising that is a beast in and of itself.
Dude, they got agencies for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then plus trying to, make sure that the website is running properly and that's not, glitching out or doing some weird stuff. And so, but what you will see here in the very, very near future, you'll probably notice it by the time this video gets put out, is that you can definitely expect to see a lot more social media, and you can expect us to be requesting you guys to engage a lot more with us, because as we said before, we really want the community to be involved in assisting, guiding us, right? Like we're not two dudes that just think we have all the solutions, we got all the answers. We don't.
No.
Right, clearly. And so and we open up the floor to anybody that either you don't have to be a professional. It's just somebody, maybe you are in tune with social media and you have some advice on how we can better and build our social media and brand awareness. I don't know. It may be actually a little weird us asking this because,
a lot of guys like acting like they got everything figured out.
Right. Well, it not only that, but I mean, I really don't expect too many people within our industry wanting to help us out, because in a way we would be, competitors with them. But if you're not a competitor, maybe you're maybe you're a veteran business owned company. Maybe you're a veteran yourself. Maybe you work for companies and you think that you have some advice or some knowledge and experience and expertise that can really help us along the way. We would really appreciate that.
We are open to it. But just know that nobody's story is perfect. Nobody is perfect.
Nope.
And if you are starting a business, let's know you are going to hit some significant setbacks every now and again. And again, you just kind of have to roll with the punches, right? And it is all about adaptability, right? So if you do get hit with something like that and it's like a smacking a brick wall, you do just have to kind of figure it out. That's what you do. You have to figure it out, because at the end of the day, you're not hurting anybody else. You're the one getting kind of shit canned,
Slammed.
Right? Yeah, you're the one getting slammed.
Right in the feelings.
So with that being said, our setbacks are just the same as anybody else. We're human. We suffer the same consequences for certain decisions, or suffer the same as anybody else starting their business. We all make choices, and sometimes those setbacks are outside of our own control. Yeah, we don't have control over it, and yeah, we're human. Yeah, we're human too.
We are.
So, if you like what you heard, tune back in. We are, just like Chris said, we are planning on kicking out a lot more content now.
Oh, yeah.
We are wearing multiple hats though, so I'm still working on production. So hope you guys tune in for episode number 3. If you like what you heard, comment down below, I guess, with any sort of advice. We'll take advice.
Absolutely.
And
let your friends know.
Yeah.
Let your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your mammies, your pappies,
your friends.
Make sure to let your friends know about us. No, yeah, go ahead and please get. Sounds dumb. Hit the bell. That means subscribe on YouTube. Hit the
That's
thumbs
so
up.
dumb. Hold on.
Hit the thumbs up. Hit the bell. Hit the thumbs up. Hit the hearts. Hit the follow. Do all the stuffs that basically let you know when we do stuff on social media.
That is so lame.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Hey, like everybody else says, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can't say shit like that.
So that was episode number 2. Catching you guys up to speed on what we've been up to, what we're doing currently, and the direction we're heading. Stay tuned for episode number 3. And yeah, hit the bell icon to be notified of any new content we put out.
Get the thumbs up. Get the thumbs up too.
Thumbs up for the like
and the follows.
And just like Chris implied earlier, we are planning on putting out a lot more content. So stay tuned for that.
And hearts.
And
Instagrams.
And hearts on the grams.
Hearts.
So this is Nick.
Chris.
Out. Peace. Yeah, I've seen the fucking symbol.
It's fucking domestic abuse.
From under. That's a face that you made was priceless. So that was episode number 2 of Ghost Stories. And
let me do it again. I said 3. So, you know,
and
Nick,
true with business. And true
so
with
Nick,
mother.
let me segue.
Okay.
And so Nick, how you doing? So Nick,
fucking on it.
So Nick, tell me.
I know. I need to stop. So yeah, that's fucking damn it, dude. You threw me off with that one. I'm over here trying to close this.
Get your merch.